All righty. Let's make sure we got all these going here. I think we're live. Y'all can probably hear me. Can't see me just yet, so let's see what's going on here with this camera. Why it's not showing me. Alrighty. Hmm. What's going on? How are y'all? Y'all can hear me loud and clear. Just making sure you can see me. So I do apologize. Alrighty. Figure this out. Why is it not going? Hmm. How's y'all's day? How's everybody's day? Perfect, 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 perfect. It's great. Hmm. All right, we got something rolling here. Alrighty. There we go. Woo. Got me all up in the screen here. Got me all up in the screen. All right. Do, 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 do. All right, there we go. Now you can see me loud and clear. We messed everybody. It was great. It was great. It was great. It was great. If anybody's rewatching this, yeah, we'd have technical difficulties. So we're going to make it work. And that's the whole thing of these live streams, just in real time. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. And we're going to jump right into it. As usual, like to make these live streams valuable, informational, educational, all those good things, while also keeping them timely, keeping them timely. So thank y'all so much for the patience. All right, let's jump into. Let me message everybody really quick, and we'll be ready to go. So for anybody that's coming in, or if you're here, just put in where you're tuning in from. Just put in where you're tuning in. Just give me an idea. I know where some of y'all are, but if you could, just put in where you're tuning in from, what city, state. Just let everybody know what's going on. All right. Perfect, 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 perfect. We're going to do one last adjustment here. One last little adjustment. Oh, that looks even more crooked. Oh. All right, it's a little better. Jackson, Atlanta. Perfect. All right, I'll give a 2 minute buffer. 2 minute buffer. 2 minute buffer. 2 minute buffer. Pearl, Mississippi. Man, I got all my southern folks up in here. Pearl, Mississippi. Man, what a day. What a weekend. Happy holidays to everybody. At the time of this recording, we are 3 days away from Christmas. So here in Vegas doesn't really feel like Christmas necessarily. Christmas spirit for sure, but I'm looking at palm trees and sunshine, and it's a little cooler. No snow on the ground, obviously. Looking at the beautiful snow-capped mountains, but yeah, it is a little bit interesting, different, I should say. First Christmas here in Vegas, so we're staying here, having a good time just with our newfound friends. And yeah, we'll have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and obviously the reason for the season. So went to church today. That was a good word. It was talking about good news, and good news in this season could be something that could be heart-wrenching. It could be freeing for you. Good news could be something that you've been waiting for as a prayer and a blessing for your life. Good news could be today that you're going to get some information that could transform your situation in 2025. But whatever that good news is for you, whether good, bad, indifferent, you can reframe it as to a good thing, how it's going to serve you going forward. So just want to share that message with everybody. Hopefully everyone's having good news this season. And if it is quote unquote bad news for you, try to reframe it a little bit if you can. Try to reframe it into something that is like, man, God, higher power, whoever is listening to this in belief that something is, it's a reason. It's a reason it's happening. Can I change it? Maybe. Is it for me to change? Maybe. Is it supposed to be happening for me and I can't change anything? Maybe. So just want to share that message. All right, there's our 2 minutes. Thank y'all so much. Let's jump into it. If you're here, welcome. My name is Dr. B, holistic life and business coach and strategist for entrepreneurs and thought leaders. As you can probably hear, I'm very holistic in nature. This is not just about stocks and the financial markets and crypto and money making and all those kind of things, because we are human beings, not human doings. So the things that we are going to be talking about today have a human emotion attached to them. There's a reason why people dismiss this skill set. There's a reason why people want to also learn this skill set, is because there's money tied to it, and money is a emotional, tangible thing, right? It's a fluid asset that we use every single day to allow us to do things or not to do things. And with that being said, having a little bit more of it might relieve or alleviate some pains that you might be having in your life. If I could only learn this skill set, if only these stocks would go, then I can do X, Y, and Z. And I never want to, I guess, lie or create a false narrative that just if you get this, just if this stock goes crazy, that everything in your life is going to change, right? Just make sure you don't dismiss that you are tied to the decisions made in this market, right? And this market can allow you to be frustrated. It can allow you to be excited, right? And you just want to make sure that that's not rolling over as much as possible into the rest of your life, to where you can actually see it like, man, what I am learning so much about me within this thing. All right, we good? Can I get a 1 in the chat? We good? We good? We're good. If anyone else has been tuning in or coming in, please put in the chat where you're tuning in from, or let me know that you're here. I'm checking the chat right now. All right, I'm gonna share my screen and let's jump into it. That was a long intro. Gosh, if y'all skip through that, more power to you. All right, let's go. Let's go here. All right, so the first thing that we want to discuss is we had a whirlwind of a week last week. We had FOMC. We had an interest rate decision. The rate cuts got cut by 25 basis points. Fed Powell said that our inflation was not necessarily the best or headed in the right direction. And he started to forecast that we were going to have less rate cuts coming into 2025. That's not what people want to hear when they're looking for their interest rates on their homes or refinancing or cars or whatever it is, or purchasing power to, not have those rate cuts coming down even faster than they wanted to. So that's why we saw that even with good news, there was a negative sentiment, right? So I'm pulling up this fear and greed index because, yet again, this is an emotional gauge of how the market is reacting right now, the breadth of the market. So the breadth of the market right now, or excuse me, before last week, was we were sitting close to around like high 50s, like 57, I believe, on the greed scale. And immediately we got down into extreme fear. Okay. And I told everyone from last market analysis, if you've been keeping up with the videos, that if we fall anywhere into extreme fear, you want to consider in that moment buying shares, picking up some dips, right? Buying calls, whatever it might be. However, what I want to go over today is this going to be a rally back up, or is it just going to be a consolidation where we kind of stay in this fearful range for just a little bit longer, just because of the breadth of the market heading into this uncertainty, potentially of the T word, tariffs. We got the inauguration coming up, things of that nature. So I'm going to be studying both sides today, so you have an idea about what's going to happen. I'm going to give you some stock picks of some things that I think are on a discount as well. And let's jump into it. All right. So there's our breadth of the market. For those, yet again, I've got to mention it, that still have not joined Leverage University, okay? Still have not joined. We'd love to have you inside. I've been very, very much pressing that it takes a lot to run a community. If y'all didn't know, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. And I'm going to be still providing these free assets and these informational videos on these platforms. And if you ever wondered, my background is as a coach, as a teacher, as an educator, someone that wants to just share maybe more information than he should, right? And in doing so, I try to over deliver as much as possible. And with that energetic spirit, I don't have to explain myself. But for those that are wondering, well, why in the world do people charge for this stuff if they just give value anyways? They're making money in the markets anyways. It's because it's the energy that it takes. I don't have to do this stuff. I can just be on the charts in the morning with my peaceful music, not talking to anybody, right? So for me to be able to share this information on a more like deeper scale, answering questions, responding back to people, hey, Brian, what'd you think about this? That takes energy, right? So no explanation needed, but there is where you can join inside of our Discord. Please make sure that you update your payments or update your levels, because going into 2025, those levels will be downgraded if we have not talked already before. But some of you have already seen some levels that have been kind of taken off if you haven't seen some of the channels and things of that nature. So make sure, reach out to myself if you're already inside, or if you're new and you're just listening here and you're like, ooh, okay, cool. What does that look like inside, right? So you can see here that all through here, this community hub is where people are going to be, put as just a community member, right? The club rooms will be available to you, but everything below that thought leader hub, we're going to be talking about high level thought leaders about business, mindset, psychology, sales, marketing, discussing their businesses as a thought leader, speakers. Our crypto hubs, I've already put some altcoins in there. Our trading floor, I've already put swing trades, shares, leaps, options, and things of that nature. And then our mentorship, I'm going to be reintroducing that at a higher level. I'm going into 2025, where I jump on every other Monday, a private mentorship call, giving a little bit more in depth about like what it means to excel as a thought leader, discussing relationships, business, finance, all those things on a more intimate scale. So just want to throw that out there for everybody. I would love to have you inside for 2025. All right. Cool. Economic calendar. Let's see if it pulls up here. It's been acting a little bit funny. Get a 5 in the chat. This is good so far. Everybody good? Somebody coming in. All right. So this week, okay, if you didn't know, Wednesday, didn't have to tell you, Christmas holiday, we are closed. All right. The market is closed. Okay. On Tuesday, the market closes early. Okay. So the market closes about an hour or so early. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it closes at 1 p.m. Eastern, I do believe. Okay. So 1 p.m. Eastern. So a little bit early, a couple hours early. So Monday and Tuesday are going to have some volatility to it because it's wrapping up the end of the year. And we typically have what we call as a Santa Claus rally at the end of the year. So this is a time where people either pick up the dip, right, and ride it into the end of the year, and they start taking some profits or pulling some profits or however the market wants to react, right? So Monday and Tuesday, going to be some interesting trading days, and you can choose not to trade this week at all. That is okay. I've done that from years time. Last year, I was like, yeah, I don't see anything. I'll just wait. Enjoy the time with your family. Don't want to stress about Monday or Tuesday. Maybe you just want to watch and see if there's opportunities. But yeah, I'll be on for a little bit, but I am not staying on the charts. I will not be in live trading long. I'm just going to be kind of touching in to see if there's opportunities, maybe to pick something up for January, February, March, things of that nature. Thursday, back open. Friday, back open. And then going into the first of the year is next Wednesday. Okay. So just making sure that we understand the breadth of the market is wrapping up the year. We are at extreme fear. We're in fearful state. That typically means buying opportunities, but we need to see how we're going to react because I do see some interesting things going on. All right. Let's jump into the charts. Let me get off of this. Jump into the charts. Okay. So the first thing I'll go over is our indices. Okay. So I'm going to go over SPY and QQQ majorly, starting off and letting everyone know my levels on SPY and QQQ and what I'm seeing from a structural standpoint. Okay. And by reading this, you can understand essentially which direction we may go. So if someone says, how do you see it potentially going lower? Like that was a big rally picking up the dip. Like, how do you know if it's going to go lower or whatnot? Okay. It's by the close that we had on Friday. Okay. So we're kind of in between here. So I want to remain bullish because we have reclaimed this level on on SPY. Okay. So I want to remain bullish as long as we are above this key level here at 585, 586. Okay. So this yellow caution line here, 585, 586 on SPY. Okay. Now, one thing I want you to notice is that we were riding this trend line at the top, touching it, riding it, riding it, riding it, riding it, and then we started rolling over, as we call it. Okay. The reason why you hear investors is a little bit concerned, like, is this going to be the rally back all the way up like we did here? Right? Rallied all the way back up and then just kept going? Or is this a different scenario where we may be forming some type of head and shoulders to come back down and fill the remainder of this gap? Okay. So that is the reason why, people that are not seeing the breadth of the market in totality, they're just like, oh, green candle, let me jump into calls. Right. You've got to understand where the levels are and where the market's going. Very similar to how I was telling everybody last week. Yeah, we're bullish, but how did you know that this big fall was going to come? It's because I'm reading the breadth of the market is forming a lower high. And now I'm reading that this right here showed a little bit of selling coming in towards the end of the day on Friday. Okay. So here are levels on SPY you need to watch out for. Okay. Ideally, for calls, or if you're going to trade this week, okay, you would need one of two things. Okay. So if you're taking notes, one of two things. You can see that we have changed trend and we have formed some higher lows above this 589. Okay. Previous high came down, came back up, reclaimed, and now we're hovering back above previous resistance, now becoming support. Okay. So 590 can be kind of just your middle point. Okay. 590 is holding. All right. It's going to try to go back and try to retest all the way back up here at 601 to 603. Okay. In this zone. Okay. 601 to 603. It's going to try to do that. Okay. So that would be like your ultimate target of taking it up would be right around 598 if we get back above 596. All right. Do you see how it's a little bit tight? Because this big rejection at the end of the day, went from 596 pretty much and came all the way back down to 589. That's a pretty wide range, right? Like if you're on the wrong side of that trade, that's a big move, right? At the end of the day. So that's why I'm being a little bit more cautious that there's, as we call it, wide ranges. So we have to make sure our entries are a little bit better and be a little bit more patient, right? So calls, I would actually want this to happen. Okay. I would actually want this to happen. And for those of you that are not trading, you can maybe just say, hey, how can I get better at reading the sentiment like I hear Dr. B doing or I hear another person doing? How can I be better reading it? You read it based off of, is a level failing back below or is it maintaining and you see big solid volume candles back up? That's how you can tell who's in control. So if I see a candle like that, okay, cool. We are forming higher lows to go higher back to this 598, 597 level. Okay. If we start pulling back like this, right, I've got to be mindful that 585 is still a level. Okay. So regardless, you see that there's buyers here and there's going to be buyers up in here to try to push it higher. So that's where my market sentiment or my bias is still bullish right now. Where it would be more bearish is if we fail back underneath kind of 584, 583. Like if this comes like this, right? That's where I would be a little bit more bearish is that, okay, we pretty much failed this. It's forming lower highs like that. Okay. But until then, there's still buyers sitting all in this area, 585 to 589. All right. Everybody good on SPY just from that piece? Can I get a 3 in the chat? Everybody good on SPY just from that piece? And I'll give you another sentiment, which also makes me a little bit cautious as well. A couple of sectors. Okay. So I have my sectors watch list here. And if I go into a couple of sectors, let's go into energy. Okay. So the energy sector is a little bit weak. So we have our Exxon, our Chevron, our Oxy. The energy sector you can see is getting a little bit weak here. Okay, that is a part of the S&P 500. If I look at the semiconductor sector, the SMH, the NVIDIA, the Qualcomm, the AVGO, right, it's consolidating, but you can see here that there's still a lot of top wicks. It's forming lower highs in a short span of time. Well, we know the semiconductor sector is a very big part of the S&P 500 and also the NASDAQ as well. Okay, QQQ. So that is another reason why I'm like, okay, we have some sectors that are very important. And the final sector that I'm a little bit cautious of is the financial sector. Okay. So you can see here the financial sector is also rolling over and getting a little bit weak. And it's also on a weekly time frame, it was a little bit overextended on the RSI. So we have energy, finance, semiconductors, and then the tech sector is still fairly strong. Okay, so it's upholding the market right now. Apple, Google, Tesla. We still have NVIDIA that's still holding levels. So we have that sector is still very strong. Okay, let's take a look at there's the tech sector right there. So you see the tech sector, XLK, looks very strong, right? It's not really rolling over. There's still buyers and there's higher lows coming up. So if you've ever wondered like how a person gets a breath or a sentiment, right? You're looking at the totality of how all of these sectors are combining. Are they all in congruence and strong? Or some of the top ones starting to, show a little bit of weakness where it's pressing that S&P down, right? Because some people are not maybe analyzing it that way. They're just like, why is the market coming down? Like it's supposed to be bullish. I don't understand why these big falls are happening. Is because, okay, we got to broaden our horizons a little bit to understand where it's coming from. I always say in live trading, like, who's the culprit? Oh man, finance. Okay, cool. There's big gap fills on GS and JP Morgan and Bank of America. Oh man, the healthcare sector, right? UNH, CVS, a lot of the pharmaceutical companies are pulling back, right? So that's where that breadth of the S&P is why it's a little bit weaker than the NASDAQ, because tech has been strong. And then you have these other sectors that have been pulling it back. We good? Does that help a little bit on the breadth as well? Let me check the chat really quick. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Can I get a 5 in the chat? Everybody good? Is that good? Just for understanding. Cool. So that's why I say this week I have my head on a quote unquote swivel, because okay, does finance continue down, or do we reclaim levels and continue higher? Right. So I do not want to jump the gun at all this week. I'd rather look at some things that you'll see in a second, which is like, okay, we're in extreme fear. What's on sale? Let's see if we can ride something into January and whatnot. So put some tickers in the chat. As I round out my sentiment, I'll go over some tickers and some companies that you all would like for me to go over if I don't go over them already. All right. So that's SPY. Let's look at QQQ. Okay. So remember SPY, those other sectors pulling it down. That's why it looks a little bit weaker. And then we have QQQ, where it has this similar look with this top wick forming here, right? Where it pressed down, came back up into 527, and then now we have this top wick. So here's what a candle would look like. Does this candle open up and we try to retest it and try to reclaim that 227? Okay, that would be a strong move back up. Okay, or do we push up? It gets weak, and then we start failing back below. All right, back under 515. Okay. So those are the candles, and how I would identify these candles is I would ideally want to look at, if you're on a chart or have charts up, I would ideally want to look at the 1 hour time frame, the 30-minute time frame, giving it a little breathing room to see those bigger time frames starting to really show themselves, right? So the first 30 minutes of the market, how does that show? The first hour of the market, how does that show? Let me look at a 2 hour candle. Let me see how that's forming. Right? Do we get back above this 226 and push up back to 230, 235? Or do we reject this 226, right? Right here. Do you see that right there? The 227, 226 area, previous high, previous low, kind of came close to it there, and then push up a little bit more, reject it, come back down, or does it break through? So I really kind of want it to push up and kind of react to this level to confirm it. Does it go strong through there, or does it stop? All right. So there's QQQ. I probably like QQQ a little bit better because I can know what Google and Apple and Nvidia and all those are doing this week a little bit more. But I know that SPY is a little bit weaker, right? I know that SPY can form a little bit weaker. So just need to give it a little bit more room because it's pretty far away from that top end. Right, it's at 592, and we've got to get it pretty much about $4 to $5, right? So you want to trade with the trend ideally. So if I were to give you an idea of what to like simply think, I would think calls, right? If you think anything, I would personally think calls until otherwise we either get back up here or we clearly see it. I would not try to play puts in the middle of this range. Right. Even though it's like, oh, man, like this could be a head and shoulders and it could roll back over. I want to get the perfect entry. I would not look at puts with this big reclaim, consolidate, and then it could go higher. Right. Everybody good with that? So that clears your mind of like all this technical stuff. It's like, OK, Brian said, think calls. We're in extreme. Let me not overthink this thing. Right. But if I see something cool, I can take we are weak. That is a very strong, we need to cool off, but I cannot look at puts unless we're up here on SPY, or we clearly do like another big failure and it starts to just go down. All right. Then I can look at jumping into some with a stop loss up above these previous highs above like 580. We'll get back underneath 580. Then we're coming down in the 570s. Okay. We still got a little gap to fill on SPY too. So that's a little bit intriguing here too, is that if it does push up, I do like that reject to come back down. Okay. All right. There's SPY and QQQ for everybody. Can y'all give me a response really quick? 5, 5, 5. That's good for SPY and QQQ. We good. We clear. Good, clear. All right. Let's jump into a couple of notable names, like our top names that we typically trade day in and day out, week after week. And then I'll go into some swing trades ideas, some things where someone maybe is busy this week. They maybe can put a little something in, get a starter position, and look at 2025 more so. Okay. So these are more day trade ideas with our normal kind of trades, which would be normally the tech stocks. Okay. So let's go over the strongest one, which would be Apple. Okay. Apple is super strong. Beautiful hold of that 246. It reclaimed pretty much everything. 250, 251. It got back all the way, retested the high, and closed at a new all-time high. So Apple, clean chart here, you can see that any pullback on Apple, ideally you'd want to take it and go back up. It's trying now to go to 260. Okay, just think it's trying to go to 260 now. So if you can catch it on any type of little pullback here to like 252, 253, or just holds above 255 and consolidates, right? You want to think 260 is trying to go there. Okay. So you want to catch Apple on a pullback. You do not want to say, oh, Brian says it's going to 260. Let me just jump into 260 calls. You can do that, but just be prepared that if it does try to retrace a little bit, you might be down. It's like, oh man, like buyers are sitting back at the low 250s or 253, 252. That would be more ideal. So think Apple strong. You can resort to that as it's trying to go up to 260. Okay. So if you're looking at any calls, you can look out to January 17th, ideally. And you can look at the 260s if you really don't want to think about it. Okay. Just saying. Okay. That could still be a day trade if you have the account that can handle a $250 roughly options contract. Okay. This week is a short week. So ideally, I'd want to put contracts January 3rd minimum on anything. Okay. So you see these 260s on Apple, not bad there, even for next week, right? If you can maybe start getting starters or look at it, okay, 260 next week. I mean, even these 265s have a decent amount of interest on them. You see 10,000 there. So you could start building a position out there to 260s. Again, if your account can handle them, you want to keep it more in the money, right? These 255s could be pretty cheap as well if it does come back a little bit, if the market gets a little bit of weakness, okay? So just think that after all those drops, right, from the market, Apple still held. That's how strong it is, okay? So Apple, keep that on your top watch. Clean chart, it's strong, think calls. Amazon would kind of be my second watch here, okay? Amazon, it reclaimed that 225 level, roughly. You can see right here, that 225, and it's trying to retest back up to around 230, okay? It does have a lot of resistance kind of overhead around 231, so, and then some underbellies, as we call them here, where previous support could turn into resistance. So I thought Amazon was a great trade. I called out a 225 call for this week, and then I called out 220 calls for same day, 0-day expiration on Friday. So if you are holding those 225 calls for this week, you're still in the money. You're looking good, right? So again, same sentiment as Apple. This one's a little bit different just because it's getting a little bit close to this 228, 230 resistance area here. Ideally, I'd probably want it back above 230, holding above 230, 231, and then can take it to like 235, 240. Okay, so I just need to kind of see how that reacts first, or if it pulls back deeper, back in the 220s, then you can catch it there, 220, 222 area. Okay, so watch out for Amazon around 220 to 222 as a good support zone. Okay, as a good support zone. So again, these are the stronger names, relatively strong. You can think calls of them. You're just looking for a good entry on a pullback, ideally, or if you just see it running, cool, it's strong. All right, Google, same thing, very similar to Amazon, very strong. It filled the gap already. Um, I know there's a big gap down here on Google all the way back down. However, that's a pretty big reclaim. It reclaimed back above this previous high here, and Google holds above 191, right? I cannot short Google if it reclaimed this 191 level and is trying to push up and retest the high. This could just be a very clean bull flag to go all the way back up to 201. Okay, so just think Google trying to get back to 200. It's trying to get back to 200. Okay, so same type of sentiment here, that ideally I'd want to pull back if possible, maybe just a little bit of retracement back into this 190 level if possible, and then I can watch it react here, curling back up and then taking it back up to 200. Okay. Um, Again, right here, maybe if the market gets weak. So whatever you're trading or looking at, even if you're just watching, right? It's okay to paper trade this week if you like to. Just kind of like, okay, maybe I'll just like see if this works out. I'll create a trade idea. That's okay if you're still practicing, right? But just don't let this skill set go away. Spend time with family and whatnot, but take this into account. If you've never seen a December, if you've never seen the market react at the end of the year, right? If you've never understood how the next year is going to form out, right? Just kind of check it a little bit, right? So I want to associate these top tech stocks with remember, how QQQ and SPY are reacting. If I see SPY coming up here and getting weak and starting to roll over and coming back down, that's going to be very difficult to allow Apple to run to 260. It might cool off briefly. Okay. If I see SPY or QQQ getting a little bit weak, right, it's going to be very difficult for Amazon to like really take off, right? It might kind of fade back down and then take off. Same thing with Google. It's going to be very hard for it to take off above these highs if I see SPY or QQQ getting a little bit weak. Okay. So those are our main top three that are just extremely bullish, have been. Okay. Let's go to some that are slightly on the weaker side of the tech. Okay. Microsoft. Okay. So why do I say Microsoft is a little bit weaker of the tech is because how it failed back underneath this 20-day moving average on a daily. See how big this wick is from 444? It pushed all the way up into 444 and failed all the way back down, almost $10 at the end of the day. Okay. So that tells me that, oh, wow, there's a lot of selling pressure still on Microsoft here. It fell back underneath this previous high at 437. So it might want to roll back over just a little bit back to 430. Okay. So I've got to keep that in mind when it comes to SPYs, that Microsoft's just a little bit on the weaker side. And I've got to know that this 444 level is overhead resistance for right now, 444, 445. Okay. Meta is also very weak. It had a massive sell at the end of the day. Look at this. 600, big resistance there. It pretty much gave the whole move back all day. So it went from 600, jumped up all the way to 600, gave the whole move back at the end of the day, back to 585. So that aggressiveness at the end of the day tells you, oh, wow, okay, Meta is relatively weak versus how Apple finished the day. Okay. So Meta, think a little bit more weakness. So if I've got three companies in the tech sector that are very, very strong, and I've got potentially 3 to 4 that are very, very, a little bit more on the weaker side, is everyone seeing how the sentiment that I'm developing is kind of like mixed? Well, what if like Meta just keeps going? And what if, again, like Microsoft, sellers step back in? What if Tesla, right, which is a little bit more on the weaker side? Look how Tesla finished. Push up, gave the whole move back, right, underneath this 430. So Tesla's still in support. Everyone's like, man, Tesla's running crazy. Tesla's running crazy. It's going to go to 500. But the way it's been reacting is now forming lower highs. Okay. So Tesla is keep this in mind for any of my Tesla people, 415, 416. It's got to hold up 415, 416. Okay. As long as it holds up that level, and I got that level because that is the previous all-time high. If Tesla does not hold up 415, okay, and I start seeing Meta and I start seeing Microsoft, and it's hard for Apple and Amazon to go up, and I start looking at QQQ, I'm like, okay, there's the market breath. It's starting to cool. Okay, I might want to be a little bit more careful about taking calls, and it's going to shoot all the way crazy, right? So sentiment, bullish until otherwise. Okay. So Tesla, here are my two things. Tesla could break out of here and come all the way back to 450. That is very possible. Very possible. Okay. Just say, cool, extreme bullishness, go back up, extreme fear, cool. But what if Tesla kind of slightly pushes up and it doesn't look good and it starts rolling over and it breaks underneath that 415? Now we're coming back to potentially 400. And the next really support I see on Tesla is maybe this 100-day moving average, which is right around 390. Okay. So do you see how that could look on Tesla? Does that not look at almost exactly like what it's been doing? That's a possibility. So that's where it becomes, you got to react, not guess. Which way is it breaking out? Where's the strength? This could go either way. Let me draw it here so it's a little bit clearer. Some of y'all are probably seen it already. See that channel that's forming? All right. So it can go down or it could break up. All right. Ideally, I would love for it to cool off because it has been a little bit overextended. People are starting to take their profits. And I'm trying to just think logically. If I have run Tesla all the way up, would I want to buy these highs at the end of the year? Or would I want to just lock in some profits? I want to crash it back down or bring it back down slightly so I can buy back in for 2025 potentially. Right. So 390, watch 400, 390, and then underneath 390, it might get a little bit ugly. Okay. But otherwise, breath right now, still on the bullish side until it tells me otherwise. But based off this structure right here, those top wick heavy candles, this little inverse candle right here, right? Unless it flips or gaps, that tells me it wants to kind of break and cool off personally. All right. A lot of these things you don't have to trade. So if I'm going, for some of you that are fairly new to this, it's like, man, like this seems like a lot of stocks he's going over and whatnot. Yes and no, because you may just want to trade QQQ or SPY. And as you get more acclimated to this skill set, understanding the entirety of the market is going to be very, very important to understand the direction, right? You may be trading SPY or QQQ and think it's going to shoot up. And then you're like, why is it not going? Why is it not going? And then you check over and it's like Tesla's tanking, right? So I like to get at least my MAG 7 and getting a breath of what each one is doing. Are they all strong, or is it mixed, or all of them weak, right? It gives me a better idea about how to confidently trade whatever I want to trade. Okay. All right, let's go to NVIDIA. Okay. And then we're rounding out our MAG 7, our tech. So NVIDIA has been on everyone's mind. Okay. If you're like, on whose mind, Brian? Most investors. Okay. Most traders, they've been keeping an eye on NVIDIA. Like, what is it going to do? What is it going to do? Because NVIDIA, obviously, as the largest company now, market cap wise, extending above Apple, you've got to understand that this is going to rule the market. So if NVIDIA decides to just take off, well, okay, we're going back to all-time highs on SPY, QQQ, right? And the rest of the market will probably follow suit, right? They're following the leader. So NVIDIA has been kind of on its teeter-totter here, and people have been thinking NVIDIA is going to just tank and roll over and head and shoulders. And I've been kind of like, I don't want to bet against this thing until it shows. I need more confirmation on such a strong company, right? So I have not been entering it. I've not been really been scalping a little bit here or there. I've not been doing any long leaps just yet, anything, right? Until it gives me a little bit more confirmation. So my confirmation for bullishness would be back above 136.50, right? Back above 136.50 this week. Okay, if it gets back above this 136.50 and we start seeing it pushing a little bit more, pushing a little bit more, pushing a little bit more, pushing a little bit more. Okay, cool. Dang, this thing all the way up to 139, 140. Okay, then I can use these previous lows as a potential support. Okay, pullback, longs. Okay. Because if it closes a strong candle like that, just say, I know it's like, in the random space, I'm just saying over a couple of days or this week, right? If it closes a strong candle like this, then you're going to be looking for a pullback potentially. Any red candle, it might not be that deep, but maybe back to 136. Okay, buyers know they have control now because of how strong that candle closed. Okay. Now, some people may ask, and I'm going to make a video this week about it, like, which time frame do you use, Brian, about candle closes and whatnot? An hour. Just say an hour or a 2 hour candle close. Okay. So if you're 2 hours in the market and if you're looking at Robinhood and you see NVIDIA above 136 into the 137s, it's like, okay, bulls kind of have control, right? So that's how you understand, just candle closes. The longer in the market it's holding a level, the stronger it's going to be. The longer in the market that it's holding below a level, the weaker it's going to be. Okay. So that's how I would look. Do you see how it's on this downtrend, 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 downtrend? If it starts breaking back out of this downtrend, the trend has now changed, right? Now we're going back to 141, 143, ultimately back up to 146, and then testing all the way back up here. You see how it's possible? This could have just been a big bull flag, breakout, go. Okay. You're not going to miss this move trying to time it in this little area right here. Either way. So people are trying to get ahead of it. Like, is it going to go? Is it not going to go? You're not going to miss the move because guess what? NVIDIA's, if you've been noticing, even if you buy shares, like NVIDIA's contracts are not that pricey. So you trying to get ahead of the move, right, on the wrong side potentially, or trying to go back and forth, right? You're not going to miss the move because they're not that pricey. So you might as well just be patient and say, cool, if it gets back above 140, cool, I can confidently take 150 calls. If it goes below 130 and starts getting weak, okay, cool. I know it's going to fall at least another $5 back to 126, 123, 120. So I don't have to be so early to something like NVIDIA trying to, guess which way it's going. Just let it break. And then we find, okay, cool, I can hold this for a confident week, potentially a couple of days. This could be a really solid swing trade once it chooses a direction. Can I get a 6 in the chat? Everybody good with that on NVIDIA? A lot of questions have been around NVIDIA. What's it going to do? What's the semiconductor sector going to do? Are we good on that? Everybody got good. 5, 5, 5, 5. Everybody clear. Okay, cool. All right, cool. All right. If you've got, larger accounts or things like that, and you're just like, hey, I just want to get in and see what it does. That's fine. But I'm just saying, like, we know how NVIDIA moves, that we can get a big move continuing and we can hold it for 2 or 3 days or a week or whatnot. We don't need to be so early. I know I'm reiterating myself, but NVIDIA is that type of stock, right? So we can move $5 to $10 in a 2-day span once it clears a level. All right. Cool. Let's keep moving. So right now, sentiment on NVIDIA, if you're taking notes, right, think bullishness. Okay. It is consolidated multiple times here, right? Big bullish candle there. We're in extreme. We just came out of extreme fear. We're still in fearful state. NVIDIA could run without the market and bring the market with it. Okay. So 136.50 this week. And your target would be really seeing if NVIDIA can get back above 140. Above 140, we know it's potentially going to run back to this high right here, which is 146. Okay. Right there and right here. All right. Because even if it gets back above this 146, I mean, you have like complete just open road back to 155, 160. I mean, if it gets back above these levels. So you see, it's still another $5 move, even if you miss the big, oh man, I should have bought it down here and it gets all the way up here. Well, shoot, if it gets up here, cool, take 155, right? So still a possibility. I would love for NVIDIA to pull back further. And another thing too to pay attention to, look at this daily moving average. 100-day moving average right here is sitting right on it, right? That is a strong move off of there for it to clear back above 136.50 and just shoot right back up. right? So that's another confirmation that if it clears back above these moving averages here, it's gone back to the upside. All right. So it needs to fail back underneath kind of 130 and get weak like what it's doing before to get weak and go back under. All right. No shorting the video right now. Say that point blank. All right. Semiconductor sector. Let me look at AMD really quick. All right. AMD is very, very weak. However, it's approaching into an interesting level. Okay. I want AMD to get even weaker here, down and closer to 100. Okay. I really want it down into like 100, 105, underneath 110, ideally, just to confirm it a little bit more. Right. But just keep your eye on AMD. It's very weak. However, the semiconductor sector, this is going to start my top like stock picks for 2025. The semiconductor sector, AI, things of that nature, things that have been weak coming into the end of the year could be something that just takes off, right? So just like last year, NVIDIA around November, December time, it just took off to 1,000 very, very quickly, right into the new year. So the semiconductor sector is something I really want to pay attention to towards the end of this year. NVIDIA, obviously, a little bit stronger here, but what's the ones that are weaker? AMD, TSM, uh, Qualcomm could go, Broadcom could pull back and then go. SMCI even could pull back and go. So any semiconductors, just make a note of all these semiconductors. If you're inside of Leverage University, we have a whole list of them in a channel, right? So, all right. Let me go over an interesting one for this week, like maybe potentially like a day trade or something that could run that could be just like an earnings reversal. So MU had earnings on Friday and it had a double beat on their earnings. Okay. MU had a double beat on their earnings. That means they beat earnings, revenue, and EPS, earnings per share. Yet their guidance was a little off, right? Like, oh, okay, we don't know where you're going, whatnot. Yeah, I understand that's a concern, but is it a concern to drop almost 112 down to 83? So when I see this type of drop on a company that has solid earnings, it's very interesting. Look how it rebounded already, how strong this candle is. You see this big gap fill on MU. We know that gaps like to get filled. So if MU breaks above 91, it's in the middle of the gap and it's going to try to run right to 95. So if I go into this a little bit closer here on a 4-hour, look at MU here. If we can just get one little tick back down or potentially just roll back over and give us like a little bit of a dip to maybe get in, I'm looking at MU to do something like this. Okay. So keep this on your watch for this week as a potential way for, just to have a contract out until January and maybe take a little bit of profits on it, or something I can hold through the holidays a little bit would be MU, because it does have a big gap down. It's a little bit oversold, right, on RSI on a higher time frame, and the contracts aren't that pricey. Okay, so if I go into MU, I already put this inside of Leverage University, so check the swing trade chat, okay, on a little bit more detail. So MU, I would come out to about February, okay, and you see these contracts, right? So if I'm looking for MU to go at least back to 100, 95, then 100, ultimately above 100, 105, 110, 115, back to the highs, then I may want to consider some of these contracts at, February 21st. I can look at 115s if I have a smaller account. If I don't want to mess with that and I want to just be more in the money, you can see here that 100s still not that bad, underneath $300 for larger accounts, right? And they're already moving, right? So if MU gets to 100, and maybe if it takes off and semiconductors go crazy and MU goes all the way back to 115, and then it has a gap fill all the way back up to 130 plus, look at that opportunity. So this is one I want to pay a close attention to, that it beat earnings and it's in the semiconductor sector. The semiconductor sector has been a little bit weak and then going into a whole new year. All right. So, cool. Another contract, maybe looking at, you see all this interest on these January 17th on MU. Okay. So a lot of interest on the 110s, even in the money again for January 17th around the 95s. We know we just charted that out, 95s. I know there's some interest here on the put side, and only that is because there is a possibility for a little bit of, if the market gets weak, right? MU could push up a little bit and then kind of roll back over back to 80. Okay. So there is a little bit more room to the downside. You kind of see it stopped a little bit into that gap. So 80, anywhere personally in the 80s, I like, right? So this would be considered for my people inside of leverage, or anyone that understand this lingo. If you're new on my channel, would be starters. Okay. Starter positions. So we're kind of chasing a little bit here, right? It's already gone from 83 to 90. So if I can get a little bit of a pullback back into like 80, 85, that'd be even better. So anywhere here, I'm kind of chasing a little bit of starter. If it goes, maybe I can grab 2 contracts, take one. Okay, it's running. It doesn't want to pull back yet. If I want to wait and be a little bit more patient, cool, let it run into the gap. See if it clears 95 or rejects off 95, then rolls back. All right. Can I get a 2 in the chat for that? Everybody good? Does everyone see what I'm seeing? 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 on MU. On MU. So we got a lot of rationale on it, right? Overextended, double beat on earnings, big gap back up, contract's not that pricey, out until January, February, semiconductor sector, rebuilding. There you go. Cool. All right. All right, let me go into my watch list here. I was actually building some out. And please put any tickers that you see, any tickers, any companies that you see for 2025 that you want to know about. All right. SQ. Still want to keep this one on watch. Okay. Still want to keep this one on watch for 2025. Okay. Only because inverse head and shoulders. We've talked about that. And in crypto, potentially Bitcoin into 2026, still want to watch. It's still early. So this would be more so for larger accounts that can still day trade or still invest or whatever and don't really care what it does and wants to hold it. But looking at SQ, ideally, I'd rather it break above 100 first, where I would be more confident, because you see it looks like it wants to go right there, then comes and consolidates back in 2018 for almost another year, right before it breaks out. So this would be a little bit of a starter entry. I think if it gets above 100, we're off to the races. So just keep your it's about $10 off. This will be a little bit early because it could pull back even deeper. So I would like it above 100, but SQ for 2025 into 2026, keep your eyes on SQ above 100, taking back off back to 130, 165, 195 plus, and just rallying back, right? Especially if we have a little, interest rate cuts, things of that nature, crypto runs, right? More money flows back into the market. People get money back in their pockets. All right. So look out for SQ for 2025. Okay. Another one, DG, still got this on my watch list. Okay. Dollar General, still got this on my watch. Dollar General. It does not mean you have to take all of these, right? If we're working one-on-one or we're inside the leverage, we're going to be discussing more on when I enter, when I feel a little bit more confident in it. I'm just giving you a heads up to say, be your own investor, right? This is not financial advice. If you like it or if you see it, it's like, man, even if DG went back up to 140, if it took a year or so, that's doubling my money, right, on shares. So do you believe Dollar General is going to go out of business or whatever? If it takes a recovery, what if Dollar General's or Carvana move and it goes all the way back to 200? And you're sitting here like trying to decide if I get in or not, right? So that's kind of the sentiment I'm looking at, is not looking at this huge reversal back up. I'm just looking at, well, what if it just doubles from here? And that takes a year, right? So think about it like in those contexts, okay? So Dollar General, big watch here for 2025. It may want to go down to 60, right? So just keep an eye on it. Put your alerts on. Ideally, I'd want Dollar General to kind of reclaim this level here, which would be right around 88. Maybe if you just want to round it to 90. So if you put your alerts on and see that Dollar General is back above 90, then that would kind of be a more clear reversal, right? More clear reversal, right? Which would be right around here. You kind of see it kind of turn that 89, 88 into a rejection. But this is kind of coming down into what we call a falling wedge, right? It's just kind of falling, 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 consolidating, and starting to get kind of a double bottom settling down here around 72. Or if this just takes off. This looks very similar to Snowflake. It looks very similar to Snowflake. Pushing down, pushing down, pushing down, pushing down. Do I get in? Do I get in? Do I get in? Okay, earnings take off. 113 all the way back up to 186. Okay. So that's the kind of outlook I'm looking at on Dollar General. Okay. All right. Adobe, very interesting here. And the reason why I'm getting these, or where I'm getting these companies from, if you're wondering, I'm looking at solid companies that have been around, that have a use case, that have cash flow, they have a certain market cap. I'm also looking at companies that are severely overextended, okay, or oversold. So if I look at this daily, I'm looking at the RSI here on Adobe, okay? It's at 30 on a daily. It's approaching a little bit overextended on a weekly and starting to still cool off on a monthly, okay? I know it's on a downtrend right now, but just kind of keeping an eye on it that it's approaching a support level on a daily, right? And this is a little bit more of a larger account type of trade or play, but there's support, there's resistance, there's support again, right at 435. Okay, just keeping an eye on this. I may want to turn some alerts on that this could be, more of a bigger move. I would look at it probably going back to 500 in the short term, and then reacting from there. Right. So this would be more of like a, potentially March opportunity, looking at 500s. I know they're pricey, but I'll just leave it at that. Just know Adobe's overextended and is pushing down. Okay. Let's look at some other ones. Boeing is another one here. And this one was intriguing to me because everyone has been just absolutely putting Boeing down. But when I see this third touch of a trend line, 1, 2, 3 touches, and it's forming higher lows, this is a bull flag consolidation, right? This is a potential bull flag consolidation to just fake everybody out and come out like that. Okay. So Boeing could be a sleeper coming out of this downtrend, all the negative rhetoric and the strikes and their planes are going all under, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I get it. But just don't rule out that where else you going, right? You don't have to invest into it if you don't want to, but just know that this could be an opportunity back at minimum to 300, in my opinion, right? So it's sitting at 170 now. It was overextended on the RSI. You can see here. Look at that weekly RSI all the way down at 30. It got to 137 and moved $50. All right. On a monthly, even overextended. Daily needs to maybe cool off just a little bit. So it's in short-term resistance right here around 180. So if it pulls back to the 160s, anywhere there, I'd probably like it. So Boeing is another one that has a lot of room, right? So when I'm looking for like New Year's stocks, not New Year's, but like a new year and the stock picks, I'm typically looking for things that have been selling off all year, but they're solid companies, right? So that is why I was looking at Boeing personally. Okay. Anybody? Let me take a pause right there. Any other stock picks that can go for anybody else? OKLO. OKLO. All right. So just for a benefit of everybody, fission technology, nuclear fuel recycling company, fast fission power plants, clean energy, affordable energy. Okay, so it's in the energy sector, clean energy, right? So when I'm looking at that, I just want to understand what sector it's in first. Okay. Quantum computing, volume analysis, look at the order flow, some buying coming in there. And then now I'll go on the charts. Okay. The first thing I see on the charts is a bull flag, a lot of buying volume here. So either they became profitable or they created a partnership. Something happened to where they came out of penny stock range into a true profitable company, or they're starting to become profitable. Okay. So that's what I look at when I'm first analyzing something. And you're like, what is that? What is it good to invest into? Cool. Right. So structures don't lie. Okay. So if I do a measured move on this, I give you my levels on Oklo. Be a measured move of this leg here of this last breakout, which would be right around $10 to $28. Okay. So obviously it wants to go to 30, round even numbers. Okay. So it's sitting at $21 right now. And it's starting to form this nice bullish flag out of here. And it would take off probably back to this high right here. And if it takes out the high, it's probably going to 35 and 40. Okay. So it looked very similar to like a Palantir or something like that. So that's what the chart would look like ultimately. Okay. So, okay, Brian, well, where do I enter? What do I do? What do I do if I like it? Okay. So you have to decide like you've obviously been doing some research on it. You've been hearing it from some people, whatever. Right. So now once you have an analysis, you've got to find your entry. Okay. So I see that any is starting to already take off, right? You would love the entry probably around 20, but it's only $1 off. So if I have a final target of it at least retesting this, right? So if I'm like, okay, if it goes to 30, what am I stressing about? If it pulls back to 20, just add more, right? So that's how I analyze, is it close to my target? If it was already up here at 28 again, I'd be like, dang, I need another pullback, or I'll just get in a little bit. But if I know that it's going to at least rotate back to these highs like that, cool, I can get in now. Shares, if you like the company, cool, own the shares. If you're just trying to trade it, probably put some time on it, because the volume might be a little bit low. It might, pull back, and it might take a little bit longer to retrace all the way back up. Right. So you got to decide, do I want to invest and hold it, or do I want to trade it? All right. And how long do I want to hold this? So you've got a support level. You can see why it stopped right there. Previous highs at $18. So you got that support for you. So I would say between $18 to $20 is a buying zone. $18 to $20 is a buying zone. If it breaks out above 23, it's going to probably head right back to 30, 28 to 30. So there's resistance, there's resistance, there's resistance above 23, head back to 27, probably take off. Does that help? Oklo? So hopefully you're taking notes on those levels. So if you put an alert on, you can put alerts on Yahoo Finance. You can put alerts on your Robinhood and just say, let me know when Oklo is above 23, or let me know if Oklo falls back below 20. That's how you keep up to date with these things. You got to turn on alerts, and then it pulls up a little notification on your phone or whatever. It's like, oh man, I know what to do there. So you chart it, you analyze it, and then you make a decision based off what it's doing. Okay. All right. Here's another chart that I'm very interested in. Very interested in. And this could be huge. And I actually have, I know he can't, tell me, but I actually have a Lon brother that works for GE. So I'm just looking at this GE chart, and if this GE, I mean, the highs, you talking about $500, $600. It's in aviation, right? We talked about that. I'll go into some of the aviation stocks, things of that nature. If there's more funding coming into progression into AI, aviation, drones, things of that nature, these things could be huge. Okay. So do you see this consolidation here? And it's a lot of bullish structure. And this is what I was, based on when I see these types of things, this type of move could start happening. Right. So I want to pay attention to GE here personally. Um, Maybe a little bit of a early entry for like long term because it's already made a massive move, in my opinion. I probably wanted to have like a little flash crash or something back down, but in the short term, it's overextended. Look at this RSI on a daily. Okay. RSI on a daily could retrace right back to 180. So that's a pretty decent move, right? Based off this candle that's coming off of there, it could do something like that. All right. GE contracts are also not at pricey. So do you see my thesis here when I'm looking for things is, okay, it's oversold in the short term. I could hold this through potentially the first month or so into the new year on some of these trades, right? If I decide to take them. And even if I don't take them or I miss them, it worked out still. A lot of times I'm analyzing these things and great. If y'all are successful, if you took it, I've had people do that before. Hey, Brian, remember that GE thing? It worked out. Okay, cool. Right. So January 17th, 180 calls, kind of looking at that to see if it takes off right back to 180. You see they're not that pricey there for a couple of weeks out. February 21st, you can see here potentially GE going back and filling this full gap back down, back up to all the way to 200 plus. All right, doing something like that. Okay, so keep around on GE, whether it works, whether it doesn't. Looking at it to go to 180 in the short term and then above 200. I think personally it's ready to take off above 200. All right, so there's another one. Let's go into stay on that aviation. Joby Aviation. Okay. And this again, same type of sentiment. You can kind of see here that it's kind of trying to break out, trying to break out. This could be potentially the last straw here where it does something like that. Right. So I'm looking at this in a sentiment of like SpaceX, Elon, if more funding goes into defense stocks. We'll look at Lockheed Martin. That's the kind of sentiment I'm thinking of: drones, defense, aerospace, aviation. Right? Do y'all see where I'm headed with this? So that's where I'm looking at some of these aviation stocks as that builds into the next. If we go to war or something crazy, right? So yeah, Joby called this out already at $5 for those that are not inside of leverage. You can kind of see here back in October, talked about 100 shares plus leaps, picked up that. Here's ACHR right at about $3. It went all the way up to about $9. So there's your 3-4X. Here's Joby. You see the screenshot there. It was about $5 to $6. It went to $9. Okay. And now I've got the charts here. So you see the move happened. Now it's doing a little bit of a pullback, sitting around $7, and it's trying to do something like this. Okay. So this could be your under $10 stock that you can maybe grab 100 shares of, 50 shares of, and double it. Right. Potentially triple it, quadruple it. I mean, if something crazy happens, a Palantir move, whatever, right? So keep these aviation, Joby, ACHR, aviation on your watch. ACHR is even stronger. You can kind of see here it's forming, higher lows already. It's already broken out of 750. I think personally above 10, anytime a stock gets above that psychological level of $10 in their building, right, it's going to head very quickly to 20. You see how many buyers are sitting right here as well, right? So here is that quote unquote penny stock, cheap stock that could just double, right? Even if we went 50%, right? So from $9 to, what is that? $9 to 15, right? So there's your 50% on your money. So you don't even have to trade sometimes necessarily with options. You can just look at solid companies that are on discount and just look at where's the target. Okay, maybe I don't want to hold it, but I can trade equity. I can grab 50 shares, 100 shares, take it to that. If I have $1,000 into it, cool, that's $500. right? Obviously not financial advice, but that's how I think about some of these things is I could just trade, as we've talked about, equity, right? Just shares, right? Does that help? Can I get 6 in the chat? Does that help everybody? 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. We good? Everybody? Does that help? We're wrapping up here. So make sure you put your companies in the chat. We good? All right. Wrapping up. All right. Let's talk about SoFi and some of these hot stocks that everyone's kind of looking, these growth stocks. SoFi, I look at going to 30. I see nothing else with this bullish momentum, continuous higher lows, and maybe it pulls back a little bit deeper into 12 or so. I'll talk about crypto at the end. So stay around for that. But 30 is my price target. And then ultimately in the long term, if they keep innovating and doing new things, everyone's looking, the price targets of 100 and things like that. Yeah, but I like to know where stocks have been before and just think about that as the level it's trying to get back to. So again, another quote unquote, as we call it, double up or doubling your money, whatever it might be, is that 15 to 30, $15 to $30. Okay. A lot of us, we have shares underneath 10. So you've already doubled your money. Okay. So if you want to trim some, great. Do what you want to do. Rebuy back in. Cool. Or keep just dollar cost averaging $5 a day. Keep your average cost low, things of that nature. Okay. So SoFi, for my SoFi people, all right, you're going to be looking for this previous high of around $12 to hold up. If it wants to pull back to that 12, right, back down here, you just want that $12 to hold up. Okay. So SoFi, $12 is your mile marker. If it pulls even deeper back to 10, I still think it's a good buy. That would still be that back down here, but I would love for it to just hold up that previous wick high right there that it broke out of strong. So breakout, pull back to 12, take off. Okay. So keep $12 as a mile marker or turn on your alerts for underneath 15 or below 12, whatever you want to do. Okay. Below 13. So you know it's close. Right. So turn on your alerts for that. Okay. Palantir. Jeez. I'm just thinking Palantir 100 at this point. Like I don't know why or who or what. This has got to be institutional buying of why some like buying Palantir at $70. I get it. I get the company, right? We've been talking about Palantir for 2-3 years. If you're rewatching this, right, some of you have been in it for 5 years plus, right? Maybe you've been holding since IPO, right? Back, 2020. All right. So I was looking at Palantir around $13 to $16, right? So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, $1,000 investment into Palantir, grabbing 100 shares now has somebody, $80,000, right? Up significantly. Get my drift? So just let it run. Let it run. If you're looking for your entry on Palantir, like you just got to be patient or just DCA, right? It's not giving a proper pullback other than these little minor ones at 68 and there's one at 59. Just DCA and say, cool, I'll just turn on a $5 recurring investment in my Robinhood, my whatever brokerage I use, and just let it run, right? But if you're looking to get in heavy into Palantir, please do not FOMO into, in my opinion, just my opinion, do not FOMO into these highs. It's like, man, I'm just going to jump in. Screw it, right? Just keep patient as to Palantir getting to where it wants to get to, and then the market pulls it back when it wants to pull it back. All right. Other than that, we all know what Palantir is in this use case. So DCA if you don't have a good average cost or if you're not in. Okay. All right. Let me make sure defense and crypto. Defense and crypto. Defense and crypto. LMT. Lockheed Martin. Very interesting chart here. Very similar to the aviation. Deep pullback from about $600. It's starting to form a hammer candle on a weekly, pulling back into a very nice level here in the defense sector. We know Lockheed Martin is very useful in our defense sector. So just want to kind of keep Lockheed Martin on taps. It's pullback over this overextended level. is now overextended on a daily RSI back down to like 19. Okay. So in the short term, look at this. This could be a decent, depending on your account size, whatever. I usually don't like trading Lockheed Martin necessarily, but this could be one where it's just like, man, this is overextended. Let me just give it just a little bit of time. I could do a little bit out of the money. Where's the nearest? 550 would be a target back to 530. Ultimately, just this 500 level. So 500, 550. So I can maybe look at those and see those potentially, right? But yeah, Lockheed Martin looks like a good chart. I don't necessarily like the spreads of the contracts. Maybe this January 17th, 540 could move a little bit, right? And it maybe not be very risky since it's not a normal trade that we take. But I would look at maybe that 540 as being significantly out of the money and it could move. I just wanted to look at the chart, that the chart looks beautiful, in my opinion. All right. So, yeah, just want to point out Lockheed Martin. All right. Let's go into crypto, and I'm out of here. Let's go into crypto. I'm out of here. All right. Bitcoin pulling back heavy as expected. I know some people don't want to hear this, but I'm just a technical person. I'm a technical trader. I'm a technical investor. I see Bitcoin back down to 70 something thousand. Okay. I know people don't want to hear that. Just saying. If it runs to 110, 120 before it does that, maybe some bullish crypto run happens when Trump gets inaugurated. That's great. But just based off the technicals, how it's been struggling at 100 and keeps forming these lower highs, things like that. Like I just, and offloading at the end of the year, the technicals are just screaming that it wants to pull back a little bit deeper, right? And that would technically just be a retest, right? Is it not? That would technically just be a retest. If I turn that purple, right? Just a technical retest, consolidation, breakout, retest, and then take off. There's that deep pullback from there. And it would look like that. So any crypto name, personally, I think, yeah, we might get a deeper pullback in crypto. But the level for those that are very bullish in crypto, which I am, right? Keep 91,000 on your mile marker. You see how it's broken trend a little bit here, right? And it's starting to pick up some steam. Keep 90 to 91,000. This could be another like opportunity for people who missed this move from potentially a bigger dip happening to run it back up to 100 plus, back to 150, things of that nature. Okay. So Ethereum broke trend significantly here. I see Ethereum back to 3,000. Chart pretty clear here. Looks like a triple top. 1, 2, 3, triple top. Head into the inauguration, end of the year. People pulling their profits. Nice little run, spike, and then pull back, and then take another leg up. Okay. So that's why you've been seeing me posting some of the altcoins. I'm not going to call them memes, but if you want to call them memes, altcoins that could present a potential 100% return back once the crypto pulls back heavy. So you could get a 100% return on potentially Doge based off technicals, right? If I look at Doge on technicals, pull back to 0.21, 0.22, run back just off technicals, back to 0.4. That's 100%, right? So a lot of these altcoins, or if you've been hearing like meme coins, these aren't necessarily things to hold. It's just something that I might look at technicals and say, this is a technical trade, right? I called Doge, if y'all remember, off this breakout. I mentioned it in our chat. I said, hey, watch Doge. It's just a technical trade. I don't think emotionally about, man, it's a meme coin. This is risky. I'm just looking at the technicals. This is a bull flag, breakout of consolidation. This is a pullback to 0.20, 0.22, pick it up at 0.22, maybe 0.3. This is a psychological level, but pull back deeper, run it back to 0.4. Great. I don't even have to put a lot of money into it. I can put a couple hundred for those of you that are a couple thousand and just take it that way, right? Because I do believe that 2025, 2026 is going to, have the altcoins running. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP are solid ones. Okay. I'll make a whole other video on my XRP update, but those are our solid ones. But You could look at some of the altcoins or meme coins like a Doge or a Shiba or a Pepe, Bonk. You can look at those four as potentially just taking it from level to level. That's 50%, 100%. Cool. I'm out. How many of y'all wish you would have taken some of those 300%, right, in a month? Man, if I would just put 1,000 in or 500 in, like I blew 500 on nothing, right? And then 300%, right? That's how to think about these altcoins is more so low leverage, right? Trading it with the crypto sector, Bitcoin's pulling back, cool. I may look at a little bit of position into there and just utilize it, leverage it, move it over into my solid, long-term portfolio. Okay, that's how to think about altcoins. All right. Coinbase. I like Coinbase's chart here. It looks like just a technical chart. 265 holding that up. But I'd rather have Coinbase if crypto pulls back. I'd rather have Coinbase pull all the way back down to these moving averages here. That will give me even a more solid entry around 220, 223 if it can do that. Clean Spark, same thing. It's starting to pull back to our level. Remember that $8 to $9 level we were looking at on Clean Spark. I still like it. From a technical basis, this looks like a cup and a handle, very similar to this movement. You see this cup, handle, take off, right? Cup, handle, and then potentially take off right here. So around $8 to $9 to $10, there's your share opportunity. Can pick some more up if you like, right? Obviously, if you don't understand it as much, maybe a little bit less position. If you understand it more and you like it, cool, put a little bit more money into it. But just think crypto, the sector of crypto in general, taking a run. If it goes crazy, great. But even if it doubles, just think double up. If it goes from 11 to 22, that's very much possible. There's your 22 right there. 11 to 22. All right, or 10 to 20, 8 to 16. Okay. Trade those 100% equity returns. And if you want to hold longer, if you don't understand it, great. Or if you understand it, excuse me. Okay. All right. I said I would wrap it up there. Any final questions for anybody? Any final questions? I like the healthcare sector, but just don't know. Don't know yet. With the new administration coming in, I think CVS is on a super discount down here. I know one of our community members, one of my moderators, Morehouse brother, Dr. J, right, has already got his position in. But CVS, solid level there. Pay attention to CVS, in my opinion. Doubling back up, going back to $60 minimum. And then, if something reignites the market, healthcare, recession, whatever, maybe some type of, hopefully not, the same pandemic, epidemic, any type of healthcare scare, right, where vaccines and healthcare will be needed again in the next couple of years or within the next 4 years. Cool. Keep your eye on healthcare as those have been pulling back pretty heavy. Johnson & Johnson, Novavax, Merck, Eli Lilly, United Health, obviously. All these are on severe discount. So put your notifications on those. That's whole sector of healthcare. We know we need it. All right. All right. That's it. That's it for me. Can you look at ES and NQ levels? Yeah. XRP pullback. Let's see. Let me just give levels on XRP. Anywhere around $2, I like picking up a little XRP personally. I like it even better underneath $2. So 150 to 180 is where I like it a little bit more on XRP. But 180 to 150 to 180 is where I like it a lot better. But anywhere around $2, I think picking up a little XRP. Ultimately, it's trying to go to 5. So crypto's just pulling back, but XRP is consolidating, right? It's consolidating. Can I pull it up here? I don't know if it'll pull up here, but yeah, just know those levels. 150 to 180, ideally, but anywhere around that $2 range, you can pick up a little XRP. All right. Your target, $4, and then $5 ultimately is the big target. So is 50 cents really going to matter necessarily? Or cool, if I pick up some at 2, 215, 220, cool, I'll just load up heavier if it goes to 150. All right, 180. It dips below 2. So just know that target, right, of 3 and then ultimately 5 in the short term. The short term. Okay. NQES. NQ and ES. 6,000, Shalita. For anybody listening that trades futures, 6,000 on ES is where you want that to hold up. That'll be about 589 on SPY. So 6,000, as long as ES holds up 6,000, it's going to try to move that 60.50. And then ultimately 6,100 is back at roughly around that 602-ish, 603 range on SPY, right? So same levels. That's where I was looking at why I'm still bullish on SPY and the market, because ES is above 6,000. So if it fails back underneath 6,000, you want it to really hold up 59.30. Okay, 59.30 and yeah, I'll say 59.40, right? Just to be a little bit more confident there is 59.40. So 6,000, if it's above 6,000, I do not want to think shorting it at all or sells. Okay, as long as it's above 6,000, think about those $50 increments. So pull back to 6,000, consolidating above 6,000, above 6,000. Okay, 60.50 is where it's trying to go. Right there. If it breaks above 60.50, it's probably going to move very quickly into 6,100. So those $50 increments. Cool. NQ, I probably like ES a lot better these days, personally. It's just such wide ranges on NQ, Shalita, that, you know, I tried to trade it, but levels on this is 21,930. Okay, 21,930 or just 930. Okay, is it's trying to retrace back up to this 920, 930 range. Okay, 920, 930. Support, I like just that round even number of 500. Okay, so you see that's pretty much almost $100, point move, or excuse me, 100-point move. So just think 21,500 or 500 to 930, 500 to 900. That's about a 400-point move, right? Ideally, 21.3 is your deep support. So 300. So 300, 500, 900. 300, 500, 900. Cool. All right. Awesome. Checking in with everybody. We good? Get a one in the chat. One in the chat. We good? One in the chat that sum up everything. Good, 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 good. One. We good? Make sure I'm concluded with everybody. Give everyone space and time. Anything else? We're good? Going once, going twice. All right. I think we're good then. All right, everybody. Well, peace, love, and blessings. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. And other than that, I'll talk to you next time. See you in the next live. Pretty much rounding out the end of the year. Next Sunday, I'll be on. I know it's close to New Year's, but I'll still be on giving an update of what the week finished off. It'll round off the year and then see if some of these plays are playing out into the new year. I appreciate y'all for the support of this year of 2024. I know a lot of moves happened and you were a part of them. Some moves you were just not a part of and you have a lot of FOMO like I did. And then some people are just getting started this year. Right. So hopefully you've experienced some of the excitement. This has been a year of all years, in my opinion. And I told everyone, from anyone that's been joining Leverage University or listening to these videos more recently, if you can learn how to trade or how this year went, you can trade any market. Because this year was every single day there was a drastic change. Every week there was a drastic change. It wasn't like, oh, just hold this call or calls every day. It wasn't like that. So if you can learn this in this season, you'll be more well equipped for the rest of your life. All right. So thank you all so much. Appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Until next time, talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.